Hey everyone, this is Sarabjit. You may be watching this in Facebook or my YouTube channel, Business Analysts in Demand, Business Analyst and Scrum Master in Demand, and we'll be adding project management in a little short while as well. I have over 18 years of experience in the roles of Business Analyst, Scrum Master, Project Management, Program Management, and my goal in life is to give back, right? I'm a believer of Sikhism. And in our community, there's a concept of seva that is ingrained in my body and soul. The reason why I do a lot of these training sessions and help you guys with all of this free content is because for me, this is seva. This is me giving back to my community, my professional community. I'm a product of immigrant parents, had no guidance and support throughout my career. And I'm here to help you. I'm here to be that guidance, that support figure that you may need. And so there's lots and lots of free content, lots and lots of free training on my platform to help you accelerate in your career. This training specifically is how to create professional looking documents, right? In the roles of business analyst, Scrum Master, project manager, program managers, you may be required to create lots of different documentation. And one of the struggles that I sometimes still have is creating, messing around with headers and footers and making things look professional, right? So I figured if I'm struggling with this, that you may also need help with these topics. So what I'll do is we're going to break this training session into two topics, right? The first one, I'll cover some of the bases. And then in the next one, we'll be a little bit more advanced on how do you have different headers, different page numbers, different settings on different pages while you're creating professional looking documents that you can submit to management, to your stakeholders, to your peers, and not be worried about the formatting items that come along with documentation, right? So let me share my screen and we'll get started. So the first thing I'm going to share is these items. So in maybe about 2 weeks ago, I asked you guys, what are the topics that you guys want to learn when it comes to documentation and creating professional looking documents. So we got a list of 16 items that you all wanted to learn from. All right, so in today's topic or in today's session, I'll cover up to, I believe, item 5. And then in the next session, I can cover the remaining topics, right? So the first thing to be mindful when you're creating professional looking documents is to use standard font sizes, right? Either Arial or Calibri. You may want to use font size 11 or 12. 12 is okay too. And then when you're looking at headers or footers, make sure it's font size 8. Footnotes or endnotes should use font size 8. Alignment should always be on the left, and then you generally want to do line spacing that's single or multiple. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So while I was planning to do this for you guys, I just copied an article from Google, and this one I believe is called How to Lead a Happy Life. So what I wanted to do is just copy and paste and show you this document in terms of formatting so that you may find it a little bit easier. So first I said you want to use consistent professional looking font size, right? So for me, my favorite is Calibri. That's generally what I use in all of my documentation is Calibri, right? So I've highlighted everything, selected Calibri, and made sure that the font size is 12, right? So, and then the other thing is we want to left align. A lot of times when I'm looking at documentation, or at least when you're working on documentation, generally it is left aligned. Something in the middle looks like this. So of course, this doesn't look professional when you're submitting or working on documentation. Right align looks something like this. And oftentimes when I'm looking at documentation, I see this funky or this like extra line spacing that sometimes is hard to fix. And if you're seeing this or have ever seen this, the quickest way to fix this is you highlight your content and make sure it's left aligned. Over here, this is in the justified align, and that just doesn't look too good, right? So you always want to make sure that your documentation is left aligned. So generally, when we're looking at documentation, right, you want to make sure that your line spacing is consistent throughout the document, right? And the way that you do that on the home panel, if you click or find a button that looks like 2 arrows, right, top or bottom. So to continue this, for consistent line spacing, you go into the home panel click on this button that looks like a up and down arrow, right? And then it's called line spacing, line and paragraph spacing. And then you want to have it generally. So like, for example, when you're making generally for college essays and things, you generally need to do a 2.0 double spacing, right? 2.0. And that way you'll have a document that looks like this with double spaces. But generally, when we're documenting our documents, generally we look to have 1.15 spacing, and that way everything is spaced out correctly. Okay, how to have cover sheets, how to have different document templates. So generally, if you spend the time to create a template, that will save you a lot of time from creating templates over and over again. And generally, when we're having documents that we need to submit for sign off or for BRDs and such, we generally have something called a cover sheet that will have the name of your project, that will have the version history, like what version this document is, sometimes the author of the document, and various information such as what budget cycle this is or the year. So just various information that may be helpful to the reader of the document. So you generally have a cover page. You generally have a signature page, especially if it's a BRD or documents that require sign off. So you generally will find a signature page. Version history page is where you can document the various updates made to a particular document. So for documents that may see lots of updates or some updates, it's important to identify the version history of those documents, and that's done in the version history page and then the main body. So when we're creating different sections or the template of the document that you want to use, generally what we like to do is to create them using section breaks. And the benefit of using section breaks is it allows you the opportunity to have different headers and footers. So when you add section breaks to your document, it allows you to format differently in different areas. So in order to add a section break, you go into Insert and you click on a button that's called Page Break. And it allows you to now create a different page. So what I'll do is I'll call this cover page, just so we can have something. The next one, insert, is signature page. And then the next one, insert, is the version history. And then the next page, so now this is considered the body of your document. Now, what I'll also do is I'll also insert another page break or section break, and I will add table of contents. Lots of times I get questions around how do you create table of contents? Do you manually update the page numbers? How do you link the sections with the table of contents? And that's really easy to do, you guys. So generally when you want to create a table of contents, you click on references and you click on table of contents, and then you have the option of identifying what length of or what in-depth table of contents you want. Do you only want headings 1, 2, and 3? Do you want to go in deeper? Generally, we only see headings up to 1, up to 3, generally up to 2 usually, but I'll just use this this content here. So what this says is when I added this, click on table of contents, and then I want to select item number 2, automatic table of contents, which labels it. And what this is saying is that no table of content entries are found. And that's because none of our document doesn't have anything identified that will let you pull those and link those to the page numbers, right? So we'll do that right now. So again, you guys, what I just did was I copied and pasted an article. I don't know, I didn't have I didn't really spend time reading the content of the article, but I hope that it's an appropriate fit. Okay, so to create sections or areas, we need to label them appropriately. So what I'll do is I'll call this Introduction to Living a Happy Life. Okay, so when I do that, I have now called this my heading, but when I go back to table of contents and I hit right click, it's still telling me that there's nothing to update, right? That's because I haven't linked anything. So in order for our headings to link to the table of content, you're going to come into your style here, right? And then select heading one. You may be also able to find your headings in this section here, but more or likely you'll be able to find them in the styles area, which is in the home button, home menu. You're going to select this as heading one, right? So I'll label this again. And now this is going to start to get linked. What you can also do is I'll introduce the format painter. This is one of the best tools out there. If you like particular formatting in a section of your document and you want to replicate it, just use in the home area again, there's this paintbrush looking like a button that says format painter. And what that allows you to do is copy the formatting. So I'm going to copy format and then copy the format here. And what that does is it automatically now numbers, continuation from 1 to 2, and then it copies the heading section as well. Okay, so I'll do the same over here. These look like subsections. So what I'm going to do is highlight this and call this section 2 or heading 2 so you can see the difference. And I'll just call this 2.1. And I'm going to do the same because the other one looks like it's a continuation. So I'm going to format paint, copy it over. Now I have 2.2. And as you see, after each heading, I'm putting a line space because it helps to break up the sections, and that just looks a little bit better. Okay, so here, I'm going to copy this as well. Highlight it, click on Format Painter, and then highlight this again, and your formatting copies over. Okay, sometimes you may not need a space there, but just on the top, just so you can break up the content. All right, now what I want to do is highlight this and make this section 3. And I can do that by doing the format painter again. These I'll just move over to tab content over, just like this. You can highlight it and there's an arrow like an indent. So decrease indent and increase indent. And you can click on that and that automatically moves things over. Okay. So now when I go back to my table of contents, you guys, when I click on here, you see a button that says update table. You can do that and you can see how beautifully now we have a table of contents that's linkable. So when somebody's coming here and they click on control and click on this, it will automatically take them to the section that's appearing in the table of contents. Okay. All right. So the other thing I can talk about is adding page numbers. So to do that, you go into insert. You can do add page numbers through headers or footers, depending on where you want them. If it's a header, it's going to be on the top of the page. If it's a footer, it's going to be at the bottom of the page. And then you can also add page numbers. There's a button just for that. And then add page numbers towards the bottom. Oops, I think I added it to the top. Sorry. So close. I'm going to go back to insert. Page numbers, bottom of page. Okay. And then I also have them at the top. To do that, you can just hit delete, and now you won't see page numbers at the top. Okay, so now what we have is a cover page. We have page numbers at the bottom, and we have a nicely formatted table of contents. And the next topic is how to add tables, headers on tables that span across different pages. So in order to do this, you guys, oftentimes you may find that you have need to add tables to your documents. And sometimes we add tables to share, content or information about whatever the topic it is that you're covering. And the way that you can add a table is you can either click on insert, and then there's a button that says table, and you have to identify how many, rows and columns you want on a particular table. Okay. So for this example, I'll pick, just enough where it spans to the next page to show you another trick that comes in pretty handy. So when you click on the table, then this design and layout, which are generally not there normally, show up, right? So then at that point, you can now click through the different designs that are available and use those for your document. Always a rule of thumb is when you're creating these for your company or your workplace, make sure that the colors and the fonts and designs on your documents match your company culture, company color, right? Just because you don't want to have your document super colorful, like everything needs to look super professional. So just try to stick with your company colors, but nonetheless, if there's no colors defined, I generally go with blue because it looks, gives you that professional feel. So you can again select different colors based on your preference or based on your company color. I always opt out to use generally blue or black because they are pretty standard in the industry. I'll go with blue for now. And generally the first row, you want to identify titles. So I will say data A, data B, data C, data D, right? And generally what I like to do, and again, this is stylistic. I like to center my headings. And now you can have, for example, any sort of data that you're trying to represent, right? And oftentimes when we have tables like this, they can span all across multiple pages, right? And sometimes that may be difficult for the reader to understand when you have a table that goes across multiple pages. The reader may get confused and not understand what they're looking at, right? So if they're on this page and they're like, well, I don't know what the headings are, they may have to flip back. But there's a way. What we can do is we can have the header row repeat, right? So in order to do that, if you want to, your table spans across multiple pages, you can highlight this, the first row, go back to layout, right? So and there's a button here that says repeat header rows, right? And what that will do is make sure that if your table is spanning across multiple pages, that the header row is now also being displayed. So that way it's easier for the reader to digest what it is that they're looking at without getting confused. Okay, so that's another cool trick right there. And then I think that's all for today. Let me go back. We can probably add a few things on our document. And what I'll do is we'll use the same document and we'll be able to start working off of this for the next session, where we talk about a little bit more of the complicated items. Here, I'll just add a table. And generally what we see in the version history is date, author, and content of updates/changes. So this is where we try to keep track of what changes have been made in the document, to make sure that we're tracking all changes, and version history is maintained. And then actually I like to add one more. Okay, so this will then identify what the latest version is. Author will be who made the changes, and this will be a list of what changes were made. And this should be date, not data. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you found this helpful. I will continue the next session with a little bit more complicated items. Again, I'm going to continue to do this not for just MS Word, Microsoft Word. We'll do this for Excel, for PowerPoint, and for some of the other areas where you may need to use these tools in your day-to-day, and making them look a little bit professional and a little bit more polished will help you achieve those goals. Now, again, I don't know everything under the book. I don't spend a lot of time formatting documents, but just spending a little bit of time and energy on formatting your documents do give you a more of a polished look. And that's what I'm trying to hope with these videos, is to help you create some of those documents have a better look and feel. All right, leave your questions in the comments as you have them. I do get back to your questions. Again, I'm here to help you bridge that gap. Leave any comments you may have and any other questions you may have about these topics or any other topics within the business analyst, Scrum Master, and project management domain. Thanks. I'll see you later. Bye.